monthly webinar, How to Create Boundaries. We're here with Lori Grant. I'm Pete Kosman, Project Positive Change. Lori, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, Pete. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. So we're going to learn how to create those boundaries that keep us safe, keep people where they should be, keep us in our own space, and help keep other people in their own space. Is that true?
That's the goal. Yes.
I love it.
Sounds so simple, doesn't it?
Yeah, I know it does. It's just like boom, boom. I don't know.
So do you have any problems doing that?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, it's really interesting. You helped me with a situation really kind of last week where I had really kind of made somebody else's happiness more important than my own, and had really sort of lost myself in that process. And it's been I'm very thankful for it because it's been very much a learning thing for me.
Right. Oh, do you see that message from Leslie?
Yeah. See, I can't hear. I don't know, because we're hearing. So, Leslie, if you could try, I'll type to her.
Okay. So, it's interesting that you say that, Pete, about when we try and make somebody else happy, how quickly we can lose ourselves in that process. It happens so easily that we don't, a lot of the time, even realize that we've overstepped our boundaries. And that's really what's happened is we lose ourselves because we invade somebody else's space by trying to do for them and make them happy. We actually have a sort of an area around us. I always imagine it around me in like my little bubble space. I always imagine it with blue tape around me. I can tell you why the blue tape, but it won't really be relevant to you guys. But it was a program. It was something that I had to do for a class around boundaries. So I always envision the blue tape now as my space. And we all need a certain amount of perfect space for us to be our best possible self. And that's it. We don't leave our space, and nobody gets to come into it. So our problem is most often for people like you, Pete, and I think Patty, you have the same thing out there, and for anyone else, is it's not that other people invade our space. It's that we leave our space to go serve somebody else in their space. Mm. And as soon as we leave what we need to be our best self, we stop being our best self. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So that's the key to the boundaries right there, right? Is knowing what you require to be your very best self, and then staying in it yourself, as well as making sure that nobody else invades it. So for many of us, the people invading it isn't so much the problem as we let them. So for the same reason that we want to go make somebody else happy, we're going to fix them, right? We're going to make sure, like, we know better than they know, so let me step in here and take care of this. How many times have we done that in our lives? Right? I'm raising my hand too. Mm-hmm. You know why? Because the reason I teach boundaries now is because I sucked at boundaries for most of my life. And because I almost lost myself completely in trying to make other people happy. And instead I was like, ooh, wait a minute. So I gave that up most of the time. I knock on wood. Most of the time I gave that up. But to honor our best self, we can't go fix other people because we know better, right? So, and when other people try and do that for us, how do you guys like it when that happens? When someone tries to tell you how to do something?
Mm-mm. No, it doesn't fly.
No, right? Because it's like, I know what I need, right? And even if I'm not doing what I know I need to do, I am pretty damn aware that I'm not doing what I need to do, right? So I don't need somebody to tell me, right? I always use the food thing, right? Like if you're on a diet and someone's like, oh, should you really be eating that pizza, right? Like, really? Do you not know that I know what I'm putting into my body? I see it. I know what I'm doing. I don't need you to point it out, right? Because as soon as they point it out, they're invading our space because it's none of their business. And that's a really hard thing because you think of how often you do it, right? And I do it. Like how often I invade people's space and then realize, oh my gosh, I do this so often. When is it going to happen back? When do I not do it back? Right? So the next thing, so now we know what a boundary is. We know what we want to have. We want to have a healthy one. We don't want one so strong. How many of you guys know people that have such a strong boundary that they appear cold? You can't get to them at all. No open heart, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's just as unhealthy as the boundaries that you have, Pete, and that I tend to have, which is the wide open boundary. Like, oh, I love everyone, just come, give me love, oh, right? Neither one is healthy. There is a happy medium in there. So we just want to be aware that there are different kinds of boundaries, and some people think because they have really rigid boundaries that they have good boundaries. But those aren't healthy. They're just as unhealthy as the wide open boundaries. So, oh, I hear lots of funny feedback.
Oh, we get the happy medium.
What is that?
So happy medium is what we're looking for.
Oh, okay. Yes, happy medium is what we're looking for. I know it sounds so silly, doesn't it? But, oh, are you guys there? Oh, there we go. I see somebody popped on without a picture. So, hi, Leslie. I see that you can hear now. So, I just want to make sure that when we talk about boundaries, you get that there's a multitude of different kinds, and they will shift based on who you're with. And that's what you want. You want boundaries that are going to adjust based on situations that you're in and people that you're with. So certain boundaries, say with family members, if you're close to your family, might be a lot more open than if you go to a business event. You might be a little more buttoned up at that business event. You might be a little bit more closed off. There's nothing wrong with adjusting your boundaries. But most of the time, we're completely unaware of what they are. And the physical boundaries are easy. You guys know close talkers, right? You guys, does anyone know a close talker?
What's a close talker?
Someone who comes right up, really, like right in your
yes.
physical space to talk to you.
Yes.
Right?
What is that?
We call, well, they totally invade your space, right? Because they have a different physical boundary line than you have. Right? So we have different physical boundary lines, right? For what's acceptable. So I'm a very touchy-feely person. So when I'm with people, I always tend to have a hand on their arm or whatever, right? Well, that's great for me. But some people hate that, right? Does anyone here hate when people are touchy-feely?
Depends.
Right. It always does depend. But so that's a really good thing. I would never separate it. I would be at work. This was years ago, before I did any of this work. And I would stand there talking to one of the guys I worked with and never think twice about having my hand resting on his arm while we had the conversation. And I remember one day, one of the guys I worked with was like, I don't like that you touch me. And I was so taken aback. I was like, what? And I immediately removed my hand, but I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. It just never even dawned on me. Because I thought everyone was like me and loved to be touched. But that is so not the case. So I had a quick learning lesson, you know, and I was probably in my, you know, somewhere in my late 20s. And I was just so taken aback because I was like, oh, I thought everyone loved to be hugged and touched. And who wouldn't? And it wasn't sexual. I just literally had my hand resting on his arm while we had a conversation. But he didn't like it. And so when we step into somebody else's space like that, not even realizing it, we can really offend people and not mean to. So you have to be able to ask people what they like. So something I do now when I'm talking with people is, you know, how close can I get? I actually ask people that. How close can I get to you before it's uncomfortable? Can I put a hand on you? If I'm talking to you, can I rest my hand on your shoulder? If I'm walking by you in a hallway, can I put my arm out and touch your, you know, your arm? And you get answers, and then you know what to do. It's impossible to know what somebody else wants unless you ask them or they tell you. And for most of us, we're not telling people what we want. We just get egged out if they do something we don't like. We never have the courage to actually say, yeah, that's not okay that you put your hand on my arm. I was impressed that the guy I worked with did that for me, right? Because he could have just like pulled away and walked away from me, and I would have been like, what the heck? I wouldn't have understood it. So always ask. Don't be afraid to ask. That's the first step in having clear boundaries. Ask people what they want, and you'll get more comfortable about telling people what you want. And you better tell them. People do not know what you want unless you tell them. Do you guys agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's a scary thing if we don't know. Right? And we go by what we want. So I just said earlier, I'm this super touchy-feely person. Well, what if I'm hanging around and I know, right? My sister-in-law, she's not big touchy-feely. She is with my brother and my nieces and nephews, right? Her kids. But she's not a big touchy-feely. And I always, when I want to hug her, I always ask her if it's okay to. Because the last thing I want her to do is feel uncomfortable. Right? Because that wouldn't be a healthy boundary for either of us. And it would cause conflict in the relationship. Maybe not right away, but it would definitely cause conflict later on. Can you guys see how it would cause a conflict? Like not mentioning anything for a long time, and then all of a sudden one day, one of us blows up at the other one because you never want to hug me. I always want to hug you, but you never want to hug me. It sounds so silly, but it's what we do.
Don't they call that passive aggressive, where you hold it in for so long and then you just explode and nobody knows why you exploded?
Yeah, some of it can be passive aggressive, and some of it is you had no idea that it was bothering you that same amount. Usually passive aggressive is you have a pretty good idea that what's going on and you're just not saying anything. But sometimes, especially when it comes to boundaries, we become so unaware of what we want and need within our own boundaries. And a lot of that, Lori, is based on vows. So vows are just unconscious belief systems that we carry with us. And we create these vows which affect our boundaries every single day. Like I know my boundaries are wide open because I have a vow somewhere in there that says I'm supposed to be kind and loving and generous and supportive. So there's nothing wrong with being kind, loving, generous, and supportive. But when you have a vow around it, it means that's all I'm allowed to be. I'll never have a day where I can just be like, screw it, I don't care what's going on with that person, I'm not supporting them, I'm walking away. Right? And sometimes we need to be able to do that, right? So that's where that fluctuation of the boundaries really helps. But that passive aggressive behavior shows up because of vows. Do you guys get that with the vows? Because I know that's a new term I'm throwing out there to the world right now. I know not for everyone, but that's how I use the term vow, is this unconscious belief system that is so strong that it will trigger and guide everything in our lives. Most of the time, we're unaware of them. We know that we have these patterns and these behaviors that we do, but we don't necessarily know why we do them.
I call it knowing. Like just this innate knowing from without words.
Right. Well, that's different than like knowing something is brilliant, but a vow, you'll believe you know it, but the vow is so strong that you lose options in any other way. Right,
I think I consider knowing as something that is just true to the essence, you know. So
Right.
in a way, it's a lot like vows. So it's just my
No.
definition.
Yeah, no, so how I use vows, I would not say it's a knowing.
Oh, okay.
Like the unconscious in the vow is there's a belief system that you have about how you have to behave in a certain manner,
Mhm.
no matter what. And you create these vows based on survival instincts of when you were a child.
Mhm. Okay.
And they will dictate the rest of your life. So
Gotcha.
the inner knowing of doing something that's right for you is very different than a vow.
Gotcha. Okay.
But the vow might feel like a knowing
Mhm.
because
Gotcha.
it becomes so strong and so embedded in who we are
That it
we
creates
think-
this fear of
Right.
getting beyond that vow. Yeah.
Right. So we think we have to be that way, and we think we are that way. And the problem with the vows is it releases options. It removes options from our life. So like I was saying, you know, I have a vow to be open, happy, generous, and supportive, which by itself is not a bad thing, except that it eliminates me ever to be something other than loving, kind, generous, and supporting. So even when I don't want to be those things, I still force myself to be those things because there's a vow there. And if I don't behave that way, I'm going to feel huge guilt and shame around it.
Right. And that's about voicing your opinion, because sometimes it's important to be that person that's not this, you know, perfect person. Like you can express yourself in an emotion because it's important.
Right. And so our vows hold us back. Even though there might be some really good qualities that we get from our vows, in general, they hold us back because we lose options because of those vows. And that's what happens with our boundaries. Our boundaries are created because of our vows. So depending on what your vows are, for some people, they're going to have vows that no one's ever getting in. I'm not opening my heart, right? So if you got hurt, right, and you said, that's it, I'm not opening my heart up again. I'm done. I'm closed off. I'm never going to love someone the way I loved the first person in my life because somebody's going to hurt me again, so I'm never going to be that open to it. And you create this block, and you become unaware of it. You don't do it consciously. You do it unconsciously. So you're not aware. And then you wonder, like you keep saying, I don't seem as connected to these people as I used to be. I'm not as connected. And there's your vow. And all of a sudden you start to see these shifts in your boundaries and these little slight changes. And most of the time they're not big, huge shifts, but they happen slowly over time. And then one day you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm not anything like I used to be. And that's what happens with vows around boundaries. And our vows, they will mess with our boundaries every time. Every time. So
what do you feel like once you get over that, you determine new boundaries and you start to feel differently about people? I always feel like it comes kind of full circle then, where you go back to those people that you sort of moved away from, and then you start to see different things about them that are kind of connected to you in good ways. Like I feel like the judgment sort of falls to the wayside in a way once you remove yourself from that situation, and then you come back and you say, okay, I feel differently about this. I don't feel like that karma is part of me anymore. I can talk to this person and not have that judgment or that.
That's good. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Well, it doesn't always work, but I'm just saying sometimes it does.
But so what I would suggest then, right, with that comment is this need, like you probably have a vow to always go back and remake those relationships work. Like
like once I find something and I see something in someone else, I know that I can help them get over that blockage with them.
Right, but that's never your job.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it just happens naturally, is what I said.
Right, but that's not natural. That's a vow.
Oh, okay.
That's going to constantly bring you back, right? So I'm like,
lots of vows then.
Right? We all do. They have hundreds, thousands probably. But that's the perfect example of you invading somebody else's space to fix them because they're not quite right.
Yeah. Well, sometimes they come to you, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
Even when they come to us,
Uh-huh.
You still have to see them in their perfection,
Right.
right? Because as soon as we have the mentality that we have to fix them, we are totally stepping out of our perfect space to be our best self and invading their space to be their best self.
Right. I feel like, I'm starting to learn. I understand what you're saying. I'm starting to learn, okay, I have to step away from that because, like, it's good in the moment and they came to you for a reason and you tell them what you think and this is up to them. This is the seed that you plant
Right.
for that. And then it's up to them to water that plant and let it grow. And,
Right.
and I'm one part of all the different facets that come to them for whatever reason. And so, yeah, right now this is the boundary part is like, once that's done, I have to let that go.
Right.
I can't feel sorry for that woman because,
No,
you know
because
what I
as
mean?
soon as, right.
Right.
Well, and there's your energy leaving your boundary space. As soon as
Right.
you're feeling sorry for somebody else's action.
I do. I have a lot of compassion, but the compassion has to stop at some point,
So having compassion for somebody is very different than giving your energy to somebody.
Right.
Like you can have like this is what I know to be true, that every being that I come across has the intelligence, the strength, and the ability to handle whatever they have going on in their life. They may come to me and ask me for some input, but once that's done, that's the end of my job with them.
Right.
If I am thinking about them while I am laying awake at night in bed or before I go to sleep at night, my energy is drained and I am not giving to myself or to anyone else in my world in the present moment my full best self.
That's truth. Right.
Right? And that's what we're talking about. So that was a perfect, Leslie, explanation of, this is exactly what happens. All of a sudden, I'm so focused on a client, a friend, whatever, that I'm not with right now. She's not in my present being. That the people in my life are suffering because I'm not my best self, because my energy is focused on something that doesn't belong to me.
Yeah. Word.
Right? So does that resonate with everybody? Can you guys all see how easily we do that? How easily we step right over our boundaries and we think, oh, because we're so loving. Aren't I wonderful because I'm so loving and compassionate and empathic and kind that I am giving all my energy to somebody else? Do you guys get the absurdity?
Well, it's about balance, right?
Do you guys get the absurdity of that? Can you find the humor in that?
I live the absurdity.
Okay. Because when we can figure out the absurdities, we can start to shift a little bit. But that's the perfect one. Because I'm so wonderful, a human being, and so loving, that of course I have to give my energy to other people because they're just simply not capable of handling it on their own. Right? But you get the what is that word? Condescension.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like thinking condensation. I'm like, I know that's not right.
And you're like facilitating them in their weakness, aren't you?
Right. You totally enable them. And you disempower them. So how do we want to empower people is the same way we want to be empowered. We want to know when we have a problem, it doesn't mean that we don't ask for input, but let me make my decision. I just asked 5 people for input, and now I have my decision. I have to make my decision. Don't be offended if I don't choose what you offered, right? Because ultimately it's my call. And for me personally, I will just tell you guys, I never ask for input until I already know what I'm going to do. So then I'm just looking for confirmation. Anybody else do that?
Mm-hmm.
I do.
So exactly what you're going to do. And you just want somebody to go along with it. And then if they don't, you're kind of miffed. Right? Like, well, dude, I'm not doing that. Right?
You need that pat on the back that says, go ahead, you're right.
Yeah, right. So we want that. I love confirmation. I do. I like confirmation. I like acknowledgement. So for Lori, who's on there, she knows exactly what I'm talking about because she knows my life purpose profile, and I'm all about acknowledgement. I really don't need anything else in life, but just to be told you did good, kid. So
It's encouragement. That's like the crux of it. The inspiration and the encouragement is really the crux of the teamwork that we are, right?
Well, and not everybody requires that. Certain life purpose profiles require that. Other people could care less what anybody else thinks about them. That's just not how they function. And that's part of our boundaries, is understanding that how we think isn't how everyone else thinks. So some of the work that I do is on life purpose profiles, and there are 5 of them out in the world. So that means, if you can wrap your head around this, this is my favorite thing, 80% of the world thinks nothing like you do. Nothing like you do. Nothing. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing. Like, if you think it's nice to get acknowledged and get affirmations about things when you do them, that's awesome. But there's another 80% of the world that could care less about stuff like that. It's just not even on their thought process. So if you know, for me, like I always joke around, really, I will like pretty much give you my life if you say thank you to me. Like if you just acknowledge that I've done stuff for you, I'm a happy, happy woman. Okay? I have friends. I could say thank you to them 8,000 times. It's not going to matter. They don't care. That is not what floats their boat. They want their paycheck. That's what floats their boat. They want something physical in return for what you've done for them. For me, I want a pat on the back. So that's awesome, but I have to remember that 80% of the world doesn't feel that way. And that can be a little bit daunting for us.
Well, it's like the Gita that says, like, when you attach yourself to the outcome, that you're really, you know, when that doesn't come through for you, that's a disappointment in life. So you should live from the essence, and the essence is that you enjoy what you're doing. And if it comes with a pat on the back, great. If it comes with reward, great. And that's really the ultimate in the enlightenment, right?
Well, yes, but enlightenment is awesome, but we're talking about the day-to-day living that we do.
Society, yes.
Right? Because I would like to be completely enlightened all the time, right? But the truth of the matter is there really aren't too many people walking around on this earth today that are like that. So the goal is to get there. But the reality is, how do you live it right now?
Well, they always say, like, the wave, you could be like this, getting there, or you can be like this, getting there.
Right. But we're going to adjust, right? Because it's never a straight line.
Right.
We
and
get
that's
there,
life, you know, that's
right?
life.
We get there by topsy-turvy, spin all over, everything is a mess, then everything is together, then everything is a mess. You know, this idea that we're going to get to a place, you know, from point A to B with just some wrinkles in there. We're going from A to Z to B to D, you know, and then we might get back. But our boundaries, if we can hold them throughout it, that's really the challenge. So how do you hold the boundaries? So one of the things I said was, you actually tell people what you want. And that, it sounds so simple, but how many of you guys actually tell them your emotional truth of what you want? How many of you tell people what you want by telling them what you don't want?
I didn't always do that. I am now.
Right? How many, right? Like, I don't want you to do that anymore. I don't like, how many of you said this? I don't like how our relationship's going. Right? Anyone ever said those words?
I've heard them.
Damn it. Me too. Does that tell you?
I've never said that. I have to say, I've never said that. I say my piece about certain things, but I don't say I don't like the way the relation's going. I say more about specific things that are in the moment, you know, which I never used to do before. I never used to communicate this before. So it's a good thing for me.
Right. And communicating is the first step. But then that emotional transparency during communication is key for your boundaries. To actually tell telling someone, I'm not really happy about this, you know, the way things are going. Does that tell anyone how to shift behavior?
No.
Does it tell you what's actually wrong?
Mm-mm.
So how can anybody do anything different? How can you? Imagine if somebody says to you, yeah, I'm not liking how our, yeah, and it doesn't have to be a primary relationship. It can be a friendship. How many of you guys have had friends that have said, you've changed. I'm not real happy about how you are right now. Anyone ever heard that from a friend?
No.
I've heard it. I've heard it.
I never ruffle feathers, so there you go.
Well, because you're a people pleaser. So, I've had people say, you've kind of changed. And then, well, what do you do with that? Like, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? What don't you like? What do you like?
I thought it was great because I didn't like who I was.
Right. So I always think it's a positive, right? Because if you're not changing, right? If you're not growing, you're dying, right?
Mm.
So I'm always up for that. But when you hear it from people that love you and that you love, right? And I had a friend actually say this, you're different now. Well, that's great, but that doesn't tell me anything, except I got the distinct feeling that my being different didn't make her happy.
It's kind of interesting. My friends, I find that my closest friends are people that actually tell you like it is. So when they tell you something, it's more about something specific. And so as I change, I feel they change too. So I don't think we've ever gotten to that point where we say you've changed a lot. I think we've all changed together. It's kind of interesting.
Well, that's a good thing.
Feeling, yeah.
Right.
That there's genuineness about it, you know?
Right. So now imagine that one of your friends doesn't like how you've changed.
Right. Well, there were specific things that people have told me, like, okay, enough. Yes. You know?
Right. So do you settle and shift your light to make them more comfortable?
No, but I listen, and sometimes it's about balance. So it's about conversation and balance and being sort of fixed on something. And so I understand that, you know, it just depends on what it is, you know.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely depends. But do you guys get that? Like, how many times has someone said to you, maybe you're a bit too much?
Yeah, of course.
Right? You're a bit too much. You're a little too loud. You're a little too big. You know, I get this all the time, right? I'm a big swearer and I'm very loud. Okay? Welcome to my world. And so I've toned it down. I haven't sworn much today, have I? I've been doing good. So when people tell me not to do that, I actually I can feel the constriction in my being. And if I want to make them happy, it means I don't get to be who I am. And that is an invasion of our boundary, right? And I do it to myself because I have the choice right then to say, you know what? I get that you don't like this behavior, but I do this. I swear like a trucker, okay? I don't know where it came from, right? I really don't. I didn't grow up in a household that swore. I just swear like a trucker, and I love it. I mean, it makes me feel good. So I do. And I stopped apologizing for it. I do, right? Lori knows. It's like every other word.
Too. I get in trouble all the time. My ex-husband told me the other day, are you ever going to stop that? And I said, no, it makes me feel better to say the F word.
Right. I think it's I do. I think it's the best word that ever was created. It means everything, right? It's like it is perfect for any situation.
You can fit it in.
Right? It's perfect. It's the perfect word all the time.
It's the gift that keeps giving.
Yes.
So, and working in healthcare, I will tell you that everyone that works in healthcare swears like truckers. I don't know why we do it, but we get back to the offices or in our break room and we just unload all the stress that we've just dealt with. We just swear like truckers and we feel so much better. And we always say, okay, I'm done bitching now and go back to helping.
Right.
But it's the way to de-stress.
That's a hard job, healthcare, those nurses especially. I had recent experiences with them, and it's really the hard job. It's heartfelt and technically and everything, you know. So I have a lot of respect for healthcare people. So
it's which is very nice. We love that. We love the healthcare people until we hate them.
Well, there's always one bad apple.
But our boundaries, right? Like, so imagine going into the back office and swearing up a storm, and someone turns around to you and says, yeah, you can't swear like that. It's inappropriate at work. What if a patient hears you? You just can't do it anymore. Can you feel, like I saw the look on your face, Lori, just even when I said it, you were just like, ooh, right? You guys know, you feel this constriction immediately. That is somebody trying to take over your space, trying to tell you how to live your life, like they know better than you. It's an awful feeling, isn't it?
Terrible, terrible.
But
And
we
I wanted
do it.
to say, too, my speaker wasn't working while I was still driving, but I wanted to say I did take back my power today, and I did message somebody after I signed up for this class today. And I was like, you know what? I really don't like the way this conversation is going. I feel like I'm being ignored. If you don't want me to call you anymore, that's absolutely fine. But I really don't like being ignored. And the follow-up was, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry. I'm going to change that behavior. I was like, wow, it worked.
Excellent. There's a total owning your space, right?
And in the same respect, he owned it too. And he said, you know what? You're right. I did blow off a few messages, and it's not right. And I will do better. I was like, oh, okay.
So do you guys get that? She told them exactly what she wanted, not what she didn't want. Right? That's how you own your boundary. That's how you own your space. And that's what we all,
yeah.
right? No one will know what you want unless you tell them that. So that is our basis for our boundaries. And when we start to set them, people will start to respect them. So that doesn't mean, and this is a good one because we're all guilty of this one, all right? Or I should just say I'm guilty of this one, or I was guilty of it. I'm not going to put up with that anymore. I'm done with it. I'm never going to deal with that again. If you ever do that again, I'm out of here. Right? 3 days later, the behavior happens again. You say, I am never going to put up with that again. If you do it again, I'm out of here. Okay? Does that sound familiar to everyone?
Yes.
Okay. So as soon as you do that, you've just told them that your boundary is completely open and wide and they can do whatever the hell they want. Because you can say whatever you want. But if you don't follow through with what you're telling people that is acceptable for you, they will do whatever they're going to do what you allow them to do. So no boundary will ever be invaded unless you give them permission to invade it.
That's kids.
That's everyone.
Yeah,
Okay?
but kids especially.
Kids learn it, right?
Right.
Kids learn it. You have to teach them your boundaries, right? It doesn't mean that they're not going to have their own, but you have to teach them. What do they always say, too, with kids, right? Now, I don't have kids, but I do have a dog, and they tell us the same thing. Sorry for those of you who have children. Consistency is the key, right?
Right, exactly.
You can't tell your child it's okay to play with fire today, but not tomorrow. Right? Hopefully you're not telling your kids it's okay to play with fire. I was just using that. Well, that's why I don't have kids, because I'm not telling them it's okay to play with fire. But you guys get this, right? It's you have to set what is good for you. Now, this is a key thing with boundaries. What's acceptable for you, that's it. That's what matters. If the other person's behavior isn't acceptable, you have to be the one to walk away. You can't get mad at them for not shifting. It's you who has to set the rule for you. It's not about them. So I have a rule in my house, right? It's a very simple rule. Alcoholics can't drink in my home. Known alcoholics. Obviously, if someone's an alcoholic and I don't know about it, I can't do much. But in general, if we're having a party and you are an alcoholic, I don't want you drinking in my house. Okay? I'm just not going to enable that behavior. That's it. It's mine. Simple, basic. Once you walk out the door of my house, I don't care what you do. You can drink all you want. It's not my job anymore. Okay? But in my home, this is my rule. Do you guys get this? That's where it's acceptable for me. I don't get to dictate outside of my house what that person does, because it's none of my damn business. Do you guys get this?
Mm-hmm.
So what's acceptable in my space for me to be my best self, for me to be able to wake up in the morning and feel good, is I'm not enabling somebody's addiction. Okay? Outside of my house, though, it's not my job to say that. So that's my space. That's good. Right? So he has the choice, or she has the choice, to come and not drink or not come to my home. I'm going to live with that consequence, right? Because if they want to drink, they're not going to come to my house. And that means I'm going to be excluding somebody from my life, in my home. Do you guys get that? That's hard, right? But that's my boundary. If I say it's okay for this person who's an alcoholic to come in and drink, then I've changed the boundary completely. Do you guys get that?
Mm-hmm.
So I just want you to be able to see, like, when we set our boundary, it's for our personal space. Zero to do with the other person. Can you guys get that? Our boundaries have nothing to do with the other people. I know that doesn't seem possible, right? Because it's all about the other people, but it's really about what we will allow in our energetic and physical space. That's it. And if somebody else is breaking that, what is best for us, it is our job and our job alone to step back or hold our space and tell them out. Be gone. Hardest things ever, right? For those of us who do not like to end relationships, whether it's a friendship, it doesn't matter, to say, oh no, it's not okay. I will not allow anyone to talk to or treat me this way. Do you guys get that?
Mm-hmm.
How hard is that?
Well, it's only hard in that you have to be in agreement, right, in your own home. And you also have to figure out, like in that specific situation, how do you define an abuse like that? And,
right.
and
but it's about any behavior. It doesn't just have to be alcohol.
Right.
It's any behavior that you find unacceptable for you.
Right.
In your space.
Well, like
so
my dad, I was going to say, like my dad, for instance, he didn't allow swearing. So I never swore when I was a kid. I wasn't allowed to swear, even say the gas word with an F. And when I got to college, my friend Judy, she used to make fun of me. She used to say, oh, come on, swear, give us some swear. And I'd go off on something and they'd make fun of me because it was so unnatural. And even to this day, before my dad passed away, he never swore. He didn't like movies that used too much language. He would put up with some, but not all. And it was just an interesting thing. That was his moral boundary. But yet he would tell the dirtiest jokes and all the stuff, just no swearing.
Right. So everybody has different boundaries, right? And it's sort of like, if you look at the United States from up above, right, or the world, you don't see any boundaries, right? If you're in a spaceship, right, and you look down on Earth, you're not seeing any boundaries, right? You just see the Earth. But if you go to different countries, there's different rules within each country, right? If you don't know what they are, chances are you're going to break some, right? Whose job is it to learn what they are before you go to them so that you don't get into trouble if you travel? Whose job is it?
The person going to that country, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing with people. It's our job, yours, mine, anyone's, when you meet new people, to set your boundaries and to ask them about theirs. Not just this assumption. We have so little conversation around these things, right? Because it's uncomfortable. So what do you like? What don't you like? What do you allow for? What don't you allow for? What's acceptable to you?
This is really coming home to me, Lori, because I'm in the dating scene.
Oh,
and it's amazing the different rules that each person has.
right.
And it's really helping me to define my rules, because before I was just like, buffeted by the wind, like whatever you wanted was what I wanted. And,
Yeah, and that's a scary place to be.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because you especially if you're dating multiple people, right? Because it's like, well, this one likes me to behave like this, so that's how I'm going to be. And then I go out with that guy on Tuesday night, and he likes me to behave this way, and so that's how I'm going to be. And then about a month in, you're like, I have no idea who I am anymore because I am behaving however they want me to be.
Oh, it wasn't a month. It was a week. A week, and I didn't know who I was in. It didn't take me a month, girl. I'm fast.
Good. Good. We're glad about that. But so it's really important to pay attention. Now I know because I was totally the let me see who I am based on who you are. Right? Let me see how I'm going to be in my relationship based on how you're going to be in my relationship.
Isn't that a real sense of lack, almost like thinking that you're not good enough and you have to just take whatever comes your way?
I'm gonna totally disagree with you on that.
Okay.
So I think sometimes it can absolutely be like that. So I shouldn't say I'm going to totally disagree. But I also think that based on certain life purpose profiles that we were talking about earlier, there's certain profiles that have they just sort of connect with people and sort of bounce off of how they are for themselves. So they have a pretty good idea of who they are, and then that person will make them shift a little bit, but you don't want to be shifting outside of what is really true for you. So we call that a team player. And Pete, I am definitely sending you the info on the team player because you are such a team player, people.
Yeah, I agree with that. I totally agree with that because I think there is this innate understanding that when you try to connect with people, you try to find the commonality first. And like Lori says, then you shift a little bit because you may resonate with some things that you're learning from them, but they may learn from you. And so definitely it's a team player. I really think there is that personality. Not always. I mean, some people become the people they're with. I don't feel that all people that resonate with people become that. They just they understand it, and they're still their own selves. So now it's a matter of are they going to present something else to them that might ruffle their feathers or,
Right. But that's also spoken like a true team player right there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's spoken like, right? Do you get it? Because someone who's not a team player first isn't going to have that issue. Lori, do you have that issue? No. Because Lori's not a team player, right? And I'm going to jump because I know Lori and she is a charismatic leader. And she's not shifting who she is for anybody.
I might fall into that comfort zone where if I have a friend who jokes around a little bit more, we might laugh a little bit more. I might, have more at ease with that person. But
right.
And when I'm in my core, I am who I am and nobody's going to shake me.
Right. So do you guys get that? And that's how she's going to come at things. And when she's in defense, she's going to be that much stronger in that because she's not going to change for anyone. Screw you. She's just not going to be in a good place to say it. She's going to be in the FU place to say it.
Well, I think I have a little bit of that coming out of me.
Well, and so have I explained the boundary piece good? I mean, help me out here because I know we've been sort of like all over the place a little bit. I mean, it's all been boundary related, but Pete, you're the captain of this ship. Have I explained and
I'm so impressed that it's so complex. I mean, I really did not think it was going to be this complex, but it's really, and it's like, it's making me sort of like go, want to hide under a rock. It's like, oh my God, she's talking straight to me.
I know, right? Like boundaries, I mean, everything ties back to boundaries. And I worked in mental health for a fair amount of time, and I will tell you that every single issue comes back to boundaries. And it's not just in mental health, it's everywhere. Every relationship, every interaction we have has to do with boundaries. And we think we are not taught about them, except we're taught about them physically. We're taught about the physical boundaries. Like don't get to, like what we were saying earlier, don't get too close, keep your distance, right? I mean, today at schools, right, I think they have like the no touching rules, right? Like a lot of the schools today. So they've definitely gotten around to it on the physical side. But the energetic side of boundaries, you guys know what those are, right? The little shots that gets spoken, but said in kind of a nice way, but yet you still feel the knife. You guys know that one? The little comment, like, by itself seems kind of innocuous, but the little tone, I kind of feel like, ooh, you know, like I would always say, I kind of feel like the little jab just then, right? Nothing major. Those are the energetics, right? You guys know them. You walk into a room that a couple just had a fight, and you can feel the tension, right? Boundary stuff, right? Like you can immediately, you feel it and you constrict, right? You're no longer comfortable in you. That's a boundary issue. So yes, Pete, it is super complex. That's why I giggle. I'm like, oh yeah, we can just talk about boundaries for like 12 hours and still walk away going, what the hell, right? Like, I mean, I taught a 6-hour class on boundaries, 6 hours. And it's still like, what the hell? But it's key. I know, it's kind of crazy, isn't it?
I have to go into work. Bye, guys. Thank you so much, Lori.
Bye, Lori. It was great seeing you.
Bye, Lori.
Have a great class.
Thank you. Have fun at work.
Thanks.
An easy night.
It's only a 4-hour, princess.
Okay, is anyone there?
I'm here.
Okay. I still see Lori on the center screen. Not sure what's going on there.
I see you, so.
Oh, okay. So Lori is a respiratory therapist.
Also, my daughter is. Cool.
Oh, really? Cool. So, you could feel Lori's energy. Could you feel her energy?
Mm-hmm.
She's got some big energy, doesn't she?
Uh-huh.
Love her energy. She is a great hugger too, by the way.
I think though she's very concise with her energy, which is really interesting. And I'm a blah, 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 and I have to contain that sometimes.
Lori's had practice.
Yeah.
She's done a lot of work to get there. She was in school with me, a different school than Patty, but energy school to really learn her space the same way. So when we tend to learn it and we practice it, we can contain our energy. So that's really what a boundary is, right? It's containing our energy. It doesn't mean toning it down. It means holding all your energy in your space so that you can do anything. You can achieve anything. What the problem comes when we're giving our energy out to everybody else. Then we're not containing it. And we don't get near as much accomplished as we would like because our energy is focused on everybody else and their mother, right? And it affects us in ways that we just don't realize. We think, we think we're being so kind and loving and generous and supportive. And then at the end of the day, we're exhausted because we are not holding our energetic space. We are giving it all away. We're overstepping our boundaries completely and fully. And at the end of each day, we're worn out and wiped out and exhausted. So there are ways to contain it. There's a meditation. I know we don't have time today, sorry. But there is a meditation, and I'll give that site as well that will sort of pull all your energy into you, and you can practice doing it. I would say if you really struggle and your energy bounces all over the place, you should probably practice it multiple times. The meditation's pretty short. It's only about 10 minutes. But I would say to do it 2 to 4 times a day just to get in the habit of pulling your energy back and feeling what it feels like to own all of your own energy instead of to be giving it away to people. So Patty, you know this one, right? It's all the centering and grounding and running gold. And it's so important to be able to do because you realize how much energy you give to other people when you start to pull it in and you contain it within yourself. And it will feel uncomfortable. For those of you who give away a lot of your energy, it will feel uncomfortable when you pull it all back and have it in you.
You know, this is so funny because before I got your thing that you were going to do this today, I went into meditation, and that's exactly what I did. I was like, oh my God, it's, everywhere. And I was like pulling it all in. And then I could feel like this buzzing in the back of my neck and head. And I was like, whoa, that's super uncomfortable, And so then I had to like, give that away too, that uncomfortableness,
Right.
And so yeah, that's just really wild that I kind of did that today, and then we're doing this.
So it's perfect then, right?
Yeah.
Because we don't realize how much we give away. We really don't. And then
I do. I just can't bring it back.
Right.
But I know that feeling of uncomfortableness. Sometimes I feel like, wow, all of a sudden I'm feeling pretty good. Like maybe too much,
Right.
Like you're so not feeling.
Right.
Like I feel like I'm lacking energy sometimes. In fact, I'm very sensitive to spirit, things like that. And
Right.
so I can walk in the room and say, ooh.
Right.
And so
But
I'm
that's
so
because you give away so much. If you held your own energy as well as you could, you wouldn't be as sensitive to all the other energies out there because you wouldn't be as depleted. Do you guys get that?
No, definitely. That's why I'm here.
Right. Other people's stuff won't be as exhausting to you when you hold your own, because you won't get because you're not depleted to start with. You can master other people's stuff by allowing them to have it and not take it on. And the more you practice owning all your own energy, the easier that becomes to allow for other people to handle their stuff. It's no longer your role to handle their problems. And that is life altering. I have to tell you, having been on the other side of it and being the fixer, it is life altering. Life altering. I mean, I went to work every day and worked with like 20 different people with mental health issues for a year and a half and ran groups for hours at a time. And I never got tired. And the reason for that was because I pulled my energy all the time and made sure it was all within me so that their stuff was theirs and mine was mine. So you have to practice it.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, Lori, do you want to talk about the promotional that you're going to do for us?
Yes, I would love to. So
Okay.
I am offering, this is a brand new, I've been doing this work for a long time, but this is a brand new intensive that I'm offering. So it's called the Boundaries/Vows month-long intensive. And it's going to start August 1st. And it's to go in and clear multiple vows that affect your boundaries. And so you can learn how to start saying no clearly and effectively. And you can stop fixing everyone and everything else. And you will also shift your lifelong patterns quickly and effectively. Because almost all our vows will affect our boundaries. Okay? And then, sorry about that, I'm trying to make sure I have it all. It includes a weekly group call, private Facebook page, weekly private coaching and vow clearing call, and then unlimited email access to me. So any questions, issues, concerns that come up. Plus, I will always be on the Facebook page, not always, but I will be on the Facebook page monitoring any questions, concerns, issues that come up. Normally, this is going to cost $1,497 for the month. But if you act by July 25th, you can get in for just $997. And this is going to be a small group, no more than 15, because it's going to be an intensive amount of work. And I really want to be able to help all the people as much as possible. So act now, because it's going to go fast, because it is a steal deal. And you can sign up by just going to lorigrant.com, and in the bottom lower right page on the main page of my website, there's a contact button. And when you click on it, it'll give a listing of, it'll just say fill in details or something details. And it'll have all the information. Just fill in on the subject line Boundaries Vow Intensive and all your info, and I'll get back to you quickly. Quickly, I will honor your space and your boundaries. And that is what I am offering. And also for the meditation, Lori, on lorigrant.com/meditation.
Cool.
If you do that, there's like a 10-minute meditation that will help you pull all your energy right back to you.
Well, thank you, Lori. Any final thoughts before we go tonight?
And just mind your space.
I love it. What we were supposed to learn in kindergarten. All righty. Well, this has been the webinar, Creating Boundaries. We sure appreciate it. Thank you, Lori, and thank you for everybody participating. And we'll say good night.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.